So, I have a story, and Jalen and Vanilla know some of this story, but it's...
Maybe I know.
No, I don't know if you do. But we had 2 dogs, and most people that know us, and if you knew Chuck has a wolf on his shirt, on his tie. Chuck likes wolves. And he's had dogs that are kind of like wolves called Malamutes. Have you heard of a Malamute? Or a Husky. Well, about 6 years ago, we had somebody put on Facebook a picture of the cutest dog, and it was Husky, and it said and when I talked to the person, they said it has a little wolf. So we are on they were on a military base. So they couldn't keep this dog, even though it was the most friendly, sweetest thing. If you look at it half the time, he just has his tongue hanging out. He's cute. His name is Crash. Well, we got Crash, and he looks like a wolf. If I had my pictures, we took a picture last Sabbath at a camp meeting, and you would think Crash was a wolf. But he's the sweetest things. Well, we wanted a friend for Crash. And I didn't think we were going to find anything that we really wanted. Well, about 6 months later, on Facebook, was a beautiful Malamute. And someone was giving her away. And she was big. She was a big, big dog. And her name was Sydney. And so Sydney and Crash have been together, but Sydney wasn't the best dog to have in a neighborhood. So we had to keep her in a pen. Because if she got out, she would kill, like, chickens. But we kept her in a pen, and we would go and we'd play with her, and we kept her on a leash when we had her out. But she wasn't the best to have in a neighborhood. So that's where we're going with this story. About a week ago, on a Sunday, Jalen and Vanilla and our families took kayaks, and we went to the river. And before that, just to go back a little bit, I had decided to raise chickens. And we had raised some baby chicks last fall, and they had started laying eggs, and we were getting eggs. We had 8 hens that were laying, and we had some young ones that we were just about ready to be in the pen with the other chickens. And so during the day, I would put them with the other chickens. So I had 22 chickens in my pen. And we went to the river, and we kayaked, and we swam. And on our way back, we stopped and got some firewood. Chuck and I were getting some firewood. And we got a phone call. And the phone call was from Jalen and Vanilla's dad. And he said, Sydney got out of the cage and killed all of your chickens. But 2 were left. And I was like, oh, my goodness. I was so sad. Because Jalen and Vanilla, do you like the chickens? They love the chickens. Do they love Sydney? Did you love Sydney? Yeah. Sydney and Crash. Well, we got home, and first thing Chuck says, we've got to get rid of Sydney. But do I really want to give Sydney to somebody who, we didn't know what to do. So in our mind, we thought we need to have her put down, because if you have a dog you can't trust around other people's animals. So I prayed about it. So this is where our story comes in at being for church. I prayed. Said, Lord, you know what we're supposed to do. Now, if we got rid of Sydney, Crash would be sad. So that was another thing. Okay, if we have to get rid of Sydney, then Crash is going to be all sad, and he's not going to. And when he's sad, the whole neighborhood knows, because Crash will cry, and he'll howl. I can't do it. Chuck wants me. I can't. How does he sound? And it's loud. It's a whoa. And we have, in fact, he howls so loud our neighbors complain. So we had to get a caller at night because in the middle of the night, she'd start howling if she didn't get water, because Sydney was not always nice to Crash. Sydney wouldn't let Crash get water, and when Sydney was thirsty, or Crash was thirsty, Crash would tell on Sydney. So They had this friendship, and so it was sad to think we had to get rid of Sydney. So I prayed, and we were going to have to probably have Sydney put down. That means, that's sad. So, and on Tuesday, Angie came home from where her brother was living. And Levi, and some of you guys know Levi has a dog that was Sydney's puppy. And everybody loves Sydney. Sydney had to stay in a cage, though. Sydney had to stay in a pen. So Sydney wasn't super happy either. And if there was another dog came up to that fence, Sydney acted like she was going to kill it, because she was just mean. She was mad because her spirit wanted to be loose. Levi said, don't put Sydney down. We want to take her. There's a ranch that needs a ranch dog. And I said, well, I don't know. That kind of makes me nervous. Well, you know what? On Wednesday, we packed Sydney up. But we packed Sydney up, and we drove way down, almost to Garberville, out in the middle of nowhere. And we met this young couple who lived on the ranch. And they were so excited. They said we could not believe what she looked like. And they loved Sydney. And we had her on a leash, and we were introducing her. And here comes this little dog. I said, oh, no. And sure enough, that little dog comes running over to Sydney and just wanted to eat her up. Sydney just wanted to eat her up. I said, well, you're going to have to keep that dog away because, And Levi said to me, when Sydney's not on a leash, she'll be fine. And I go, I don't know. So I went home, and I came to Tractor Supply, and I bought a muzzle. I said, at least until Sydney gets to know this dog, here's a muzzle. And I sent it out. Guess what? Jesus answered my prayer. The next day, Levi sends me a picture of Sydney and this doggie playing together on this place. She has all the place. She has acres to run. And you know what? Did Jesus hear my prayer? Okay, there's more to the story. On Monday, on Saturday, before this all happened, my daughter said, Mom, somebody's given away 20 chickens. I go, I have already 22. I don't need more chickens. But on Saturday and Sunday, I had 2 chickens. One of my hens was all lonely. On Monday, Angie got a hold of the gal, and we got 9 laying hens. So that made 10. Then somebody else got a hold of me, and they had 10 more. And so I have 20 chickens, and we have some babies. So I ended up with more chickens than I had before. And do you know that another part of the story is, remember I said that one of the sad reasons for getting rid of Sydney was that Crash wasn't going to have a friend. The girl who originally gave me my baby chickens raises Labrador retrievers. And I didn't want a puppy. She has puppies, but they're very expensive. She got a hold of me and she says, you know what? I'm retiring. I have one of my labs that I retired. She's spayed. She's 7 years old, and her name is Shadow. So Shadow came to live with us. So not only did God take care of a place for Sydney to live, he gave us another dog and gave us more chickens. So what does that say about our God? Does he care about the little things? Yeah, it says, there was a verse, and now I can't think of the verse. All things work together for good to those who love the Lord. And this story has a lot of pieces, but it all worked together for good. Because I prayed, and I asked Jesus, what do we do? And so Sydney has a good home. Shadow has a good home. We have chickens. And Crash, and another part is Crash and Shadow get to be in our front yard and get to come in the house at night. And so that makes them happy. So just remember that if you pray, Jesus answers our prayers in ways we don't even think and cannot even imagine. You can go back to your seat.